Okay, let's see what card today holds in store for us. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe this. The last episode was about card number 52, which is Life's Potluck Buffet rule number 2. And I said in that episode that I was going to talk about rule number 3 and why rule number 3 was so important to me. This was not planned. This was not fixed. In fact, I'm going to have to speak a little bit about the uncanny, which just is a fact. The mysterious things happen in our lives, and can't explain why they happen. I don't know what level they happen at. I always suspect it might have to do with the quantum level, but I'm not enough of a physicist to really have anything to back that up, nor would I know the connection between the quantum level and the macro level that we live in and perceive. They would seem unrelated, but the reason I think that this uncanniness has to do with the quantum level, and again, I'm not a physicist, so I'm not going to try to explain this in too much depth, but what I know of quantum physics is that at that very, 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 very small level, did I get enough varies in there? But at that level, two things, let's call them, can be connected over impossible distances. When I say impossible, I mean across the universe. So in other words, there might be one thing here in the room that I'm in right now that is connected to something in a galaxy so far. Am I about to say the beginning of Star Wars? At a galaxy so far away that I can't even fathom how far away it is. But these two things are connected, uncannily, mysteriously, and that's a fact that science tells us. I always think if that's the case, then is there something about uncanny things that happen that is governed by some sort of similar chance? Probably not. But okay, here we go. So here it is, Life's Potluck Buffet rule number 3. That story you just told about someone else was about you. When we speak ill or well of others, we ought to consider in what way we are talking to ourselves about ourselves. Pay close attention to the stories you tell about others, both when you complain about them and when you praise their actions. By understanding what others do that either annoys you or pleases you, you can learn what you do that is annoying or what you want to be praised for. What story did you just tell about someone else? How was it really about you? So long ago, and some of you listening out there who know me and know me well and who have worked with me and we've worked together, know that I would always tell people that I have 3 life rules. The most important of which is rule number 3. Rule number 1, as you know from a previous episode, and you may know if you own a pack of Life's Potluck Buffet playing cards. Rule number 1 is get people's names right. And that's rule number 1 simply because it's rule number 1. Rule number 3, I will bring up rule number 3 on a daily basis because there's always something that I've said or that somebody else said that was about me or was about them when we thought it was about somebody else. And when people ask me what was rule number 2, I would say there is no rule number 2. Now you know that in Life's Potluck Buffet, rule number 2 is be like Salvador Dali. And I think that's pretty fitting, given that there is no rule number 2, because Salvador Dali lived beyond the rules. But rule number 3 is so, so important. I can't say how important this is to me in my life and in the lives of many that I've worked with, because this simple rule, oh no, I'm starting to sound like one of those internet ads, 10 simple rules to stop plaque, okay. Because this simple rule helps us figure out other people's intentions. They say you can't read people's minds, but people, when they speak, are reading their own minds for us. Listen very closely when people say things that annoy them about other people. Please note carefully. You probably already know this because you've probably seen countless times when someone says, "Oh, I hate how messy Dennis is and his, he just is such a wreck." Does the person who says that kind of thing, are they themselves neat people? Not in my experience. Because neat people don't tell stories about messy people. Neat people tell stories about neat people. The same thing goes for when people accuse others of doing things. This is the most powerful way to interpret this rule. Notice that when someone accuses someone, and we already know about this in our lives, right? Because when someone accuses someone off the cuff of doing X or Y, you better believe that that person is doing X or Y. That is the most glaring example I could provide of rule number 3 that we see in our lives. We see it in the lives of others on a daily basis. We usually call it hypocrisy. This is that old rule of if you point your finger at somebody, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Oh, there you go. 3 fingers. This is rule number 3. How you like that? And the same thing is true for good things we say about others. It's not that we're being hypocritical because this is a positive thing now, but we often praise in others things that we would like to praise in ourselves. And sometimes it's things that are true about us, and sometimes it's things that we wish were true about us. And also, who is it really about when people effusively praise somebody else's actions? We know that at some point it starts to become about the person who's speaking rather than about the person they're praising. So this is something I'm going to ask you to do in your life today, as soon as you hear this. Think, what story did you just tell about somebody else? How was that story really about you? Pay close attention to the stories that you tell about others, because that story you just told about somebody else was about you. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And if you feel the uncanny urge to go to lifespotluck.com and buy a pack of Life's Potluck Buffet cards, go with the flow. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.